Hey everyone, I wanted to share with you a new acquisition. This here is an Afghan or North Indian Pulwar. As many of you may know, I love collecting swords and I've wanted to get a Tulwar for quite a while. Partly because they're famed for having amazing cutting power. They've also been mentioned a few times on Matt Easton's channel, Scholar Gladiatoria. He has a few of them. They just look very exotic and beautiful. But also, I really wanted one because they appear in several of the Conan the Barbarian stories. What can I say? I don't know, there's just something about them that seemed really cool. So, this one came up for sale at a local sword shop. So, I bought it. We thought it was a Tulwar, so I started doing some research on it. Especially this hilt. The flower was a bit strange, so I wanted to see if I could find any others similar so I could get an idea of what type of Tulwar this was. So I looked up Tulwar flower, nothing. Tulwar flower guard, nothing. And so on and so forth. Didn't get anything until I eventually tried antique Tulwar. Kept scrolling down Google images till I saw one with a flower like that. So I had a look at it. It said something like Pulwar Afghan Tulwar. So I tried Afghan Tulwar, or possibly that long word starting with P. Put that in. Bingo! And it came up with the other spelling of it, which is Pulwar. It seems that they all had that flower on the guard, or in fact, normally a second one on the other side, meaning one's missing, sadly. But there's some other distinctive characteristics of Pulwars. Now, Tulwars are normally attached to the guard with, basically they're glued in. But the glue, from what I understand, is closer to, say, a road tar. And honestly, this is almost a 200-year-old sword. Apparently most Tulwars date from the early 1800s. So this is getting close to 200. This is probably getting close to 200 years old. I don't know. How the hell am I going to track down the exact date of production on a sword made in the hills of Afghanistan? Yeah, it's good. Got some age to it, but that glue is still rock solid. However, the pommel is a bit loose. That's not glued in. That's attached with a nail driven through the tang there. But yeah, it's been battered out of shape and it's a bit loose. But the hilt glued it on, still rock solid. But yes, this one is glued in with whatever kind of epoxy that has kept it there for all this time. But it's also got a brass rivet through the hilt and blade, which also seems to be, from the other examples I've seen on my internet search, that seems to be a common feature of Pulwars as opposed to Tulwars. As well as, you may notice the pommel at the bottom. It's not that typical Tulwar disc pommel. It's kind of a dome shape. And that is also a characteristic feature from what I can gather of Pulwars. I don't know, I only really discovered that this type of sword existed 2 days ago. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert on them, but no. Oh, just a note. It does that that guard doesn't really confine the wrist as much, like you hear about on Tulwars with their disc guard. I feel that really comfortable to get it out on some steep angles. So instead of doing the big draw cuts, I may also be able to get a bit more reach with this. I wonder if that's something that drove the design of that pommel. I don't know. It's only speculation. Like I said, I've only known this type of sword existed for 2 days. Oh yes, and the final thing. Apparently all these originals should have a watered steel blade. What this is, as far as we can tell, is some form of true Damascus blade. We can't really tell very well. That's what this is. At least that's what we think this is now. Originally when it was sold to me, dealer didn't realise that it was a watered steel blade. Didn't even know it was a Pulwar. Sold it to me as a Tulwar. So we had a great chat, and I asked him, alright, now knowing what it is and knowing that it's a Damascus blade, how much do you reckon it would be worth? He estimated maybe around $700. I also took it into an antique store to get it evaluated. And he said that he'd try to sell it for $890. So if we round that up an extra $10, that would be $900. I paid $300 for it, so that's a pretty good return on investment. But I want to keep this one because it handles so gorgeously. And one of the reasons I bought it, other than of course wanting to own an exotic antique sword and wanting to own a Tulwar, was that I'd love to get into swordsmithing, and I'd love to have some antique originals to clone. Try and make an exact copy of this. We can sort of see a pattern in it. It's quite a crazy pattern. I wasn't sure at first if that was a pattern or if it was just pitting, but there's up near the blade there's a really crazy swirly pattern in the where it's created away. Like an acid etched piece of Damascus. And there's a slight little fold line on the spine there. And you can just see where there's some little fold lines in it here and there. But I just thought I'd share this with you. No, I haven't been posting much, but something I'm quite wanting to talk about because it's worth probably 3 times as much as I paid for it, and it is quite an exotic beauty. And she handles gorgeously. But the real question is, will it make a zombie go boom? Yeah, it probably would, but do I really want to destroy an Ivan head with this? It did kind of at first. It is a gorgeous sword. I really don't think it would have the slightest problem in performing a decapitation on an Ivan head target. If you don't know what those are, look up Zombie Go Boom. There's this channel that makes head analogs. They try to recreate a human head to test weapons on it to see how they would do in fighting a zombie. I'm friends with Chuck Murray, hosting one of the creators of the show. Originally Originally I did think it would be kind of cool to test this out on it, but it's a $900 sword. An antique $900 sword. Maybe I should be a little bit nicer to it. As much as I would love to do some jug cutting with this, just because it feels so good in the hand. It's so light, agile, and gorgeous. I'd love to do some cutting with it, but it's an antique, and it's probably, I could sell it for quite a bit. I think I'll just have to keep this for a blade to ooh and ah over. So if I ever get around to making a clone of it, that would be fun to cut with. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. I'm sorry the lighting isn't that great. I might have to post some high resolution photos of it on Facebook later. Yeah, this lighting's horrible, but I just wanted to share this with you. She is a beauty. Alright everyone, hope you have a good one. See you.